Next question. Why is Jesus called Michael in Daniel chapter 12, verse 1? Is he in the sanctuary as Michael? Daniel 12. Doug, you've been quiet lately.
I'm learning a lot of things. In Daniel chapter 12, at that time Michael will stand up, the great prince which stands for the children of thy people, and there'll be a time of trouble such as there never was, ever since there was a nation, even unto the same time. And at that time thy people will be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. And so when it talks about Christ in the Old Testament, it typically talks about him, they're called Christophanies, and sometimes he appeared as the angel of the Lord. You know it was Jesus because he tells Joshua, take your shoes off your feet. This is holy ground. It's an attitude of worship. Tells us the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout with the voice of the archangel. That's the highest messenger. And you've also got Daniel chapter 10 where it talks about Michael, chief of the angels. And it's really telling us about his first role of the messengers of God. And so Michael's just a name. Who is like God is what the word means. It's a name that's often used. Michael is the one who's involved in the resurrection of Moses in Jude verse 9. And so it's one of the names that you find in the Old Testament. And I'm comforted. This is not an Adventist doctrine. If you read like in Matthew Henry's commentary, which by the way was in Ellen White's library, as well as maybe Adam Clark and the others, they said Michael can only be Christ. And so am I answering the question? Because they were asking something specific about
and then the question is he as Michael in the sanctuary? Because it says he's...
Well, I think Jesus, we talk about what's his name in the context of the sanctuary. Look in Revelation how many different names you find Jesus used in the sanctuary. And so that is one of his names, who is as God.
Yes, Daniel 12 verse 1 is specifically referring to the close of probation. Ellen White begins the chapter on the time of trouble by quoting this verse. The expression, Michael shall stand up, that expression, stand up, means that he's going to begin to reign. And the only moment that he can begin to reign is when his kingdom is made up. And what determines who is the subject of his kingdom is the investigative judgment. So when the investigative judgment ends, his kingdom is made up because he's already shown who's a member of his kingdom. How do we know that stand up means that? Well, the same word is used in Daniel 11 and verse 2 and 3. It says, and now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia. It's not translated the same, but it's the identical Hebrew word. 3 kings will yet stand up in Persia. What does that mean? 3 kings are yet to rule in Persia. So in Daniel chapter 12 and verse 1, you have the close of probation. The reason he's called Michael there is because the name Michael means who is like God. Revelation 13 verse 4 says that the whole world is going to be saying, who is like the beast? So here you have one whose name means who is like God. And he stands up, he closes the door of probation to protect God's people in the time of trouble. So he's spoken of as Michael, who is like God. I'm going to protect my people. And when you get to the end of verse 1, it says that God's people will be delivered. Everyone who is written in the book, which is a reference to their names retained in the book of life during the investigative judgment. So the context indicates that he's called Michael because he's rising to be the defender of God's people, who is like God. In the Bible, names are significant, in other words, and you have to take the name in the context in which it appears.
Yeah, and just building on that, in Malachi 3:16, it talks about those who spoke often one to another, and the Lord hearkened and heard, and a book of remembrance was written before him for those who feared the Lord and thought upon his name. And so, Pastor Bohr was saying, who is like God? Those who are delivered are those who are like God. Those who have the character of Christ, who are sealed into the character of Christ, who perfectly reflect the character of Christ. So that word, part of the reason that word is used there, Michael's used there, is because those are the very people he's delivering, the people who are like God.
Yeah. In Daniel chapter 10, at the end, no one opposes me except let it be noted in the scripture of truth, no one upholds me except Michael your prince. That's directed towards Daniel, who's praying about the 2300 days. That 2300-day prophecy then comes to an end, and you see in the verses just before 12:1, you see this attack against the glorious holy mountain. And that is a metaphor for the sanctuary all through the book of Daniel. So back to the direct question, yeah, he's standing up in the sanctuary on behalf of his people, and that's Michael, that's Jesus. He first of all stands up, or tells Daniel he'll stand up for him, but then he's standing up for everybody because he's the Prince of the Covenant, and he was broken for them. He has all the kudos, and he's able to stand up for them.
Michael never loses a battle.